Now allow me to reintroduce myself. They call me J.O.A. to the easy E-N. Know that we undefeated. Y'all are beneath them speeches trying to air a grievance. But his lines are overhead. Better check the air for clearance. Call the tower. This is ours. Clear the heat. The air apparent. Really, I've never been better. Legacy, this is forever. All the more times I've been stepping. I'm raising the bar. You can go ahead and measure. Think about time for a toast. Time that we welcome the GOAT. Yo, when it's leaving, I think about time that somebody go get him their coat.
I gotta say, man, before we start, I really love that intro video. It's super cool.
It really is.
Welcome into the Fantasy Six Pack 2023 NFL Team Previews. I am Dave Eddy, joined here by Mr. Mike LaPlant. Today, we're going to be talking about the Indianapolis Colts. Before we jump into things, though, please go ahead, take a quick moment, drop a like here for us if you are a Colts fan or if you've been enjoying these team previews. And if you aren't already an all-access member with us, head on over to fantasysixpack.net/plans and get yourself signed up. You're going to get all of our award-winning rankings, projections, all sorts of DFS content, which I provide quite a bit of that for you. And then not to mention being invited to join our private Discord channel where each one of us will be right at your fingertips and you can ask any and all of your questions, even your league-specific ones, which can get quite detailed. But, Mike, are you ready to hop in and get things going here?
Oh, yeah. Another team in the AFC South I am ready to jump into.
All right, man. Well, let's go ahead and we'll start off here with the quarterback room. And, you know, this is going to be an interesting one because as of now, the top of this depth chart says Gardner Minshew, but I don't know how long that's going to last. Maybe not even into week one. Because, of course, we've got the enigma here. Anthony Richardson is the guy that is very polarizing, I would say. You can get a lot of different opinions about, Anthony Richardson. And I think, honestly, he's maybe one of the more polarizing rookie quarterbacks that we've had in recent memory. So I think we need to focus on him here. And so what I want to know from you is basically what is your outlook for him, not just in Dynasty, because I think he holds more value in Dynasty, obviously. But I'm more interested in kind of your thoughts on him for redraft this year. How are you approaching that?
It's a great question, Dave. All right. Well, there's no question that Richardson has the talent to, be the Cam Newton-esque type of quarterback, get 10-plus touchdowns on the ground his rookie year. But I mean, just as you can ask anybody else, it's his passing that's in question here. All right. So I looked at Cam Newton's rookie year where he had 370 points. All right. The best rookie quarterback performance ever, this is who his comparison was, Cam Newton. Even that year, Cam Newton threw for 4,051 passing yards, had 21 passing touchdowns. And then, of course, just like everyone said he was going to have, he had 709 rushing yards and 14 touchdowns on the ground.
14 is a huge number, Mike.
That's a huge number, especially, I didn't even give you the stat. He threw 17 interceptions. Wow. Imagine how many more points he could have had without those interceptions, too. It's kind of too, just as, because those rushing yards and touchdowns are just astronomical to a QB, QB's value. But I just can't see Richardson throwing for 4,000 passing yards in his rookie year, man. That's a tall task to ask. Even Cam Newton, when he had his rookie year, had Steve Smith, Hall of Famer, throw to. You know what I mean? Like, they got Michael Pittman. I love Michael Pittman, but it's not Steve Smith.
We'll get to Michael Pittman. Don't worry.
But, only 4 rookie quarterbacks since 2006 have thrown for, 4,000 plus yards their rookie year. Newton was one of them in 2011. Justin Herbert in 2020, Andrew Luck in 2012. And then this one was a little weird. Jameis Winston in 2015.
Sure.
All of those quarterbacks were touted as better passers coming out of college.
I mean, Richardson is one of the worst passers coming out of college.
That's kind of what I'm getting at here. Is like I like Richardson, like you said, dynasty, but as far as redraft goes, like it's going to be all rushing value that inflates his points this year. Kind of what I'm getting at, and that's QB2 for me this year, not QB1.
I don't even know about QB2. I think that Anthony Richardson is going to be an absolute mess. I think he's going to be a disaster in his rookie year. I mean, thank God he's got Jonathan Taylor, maybe. I mean, if he can stay healthy.
Shane Steichen's an improvement too.
I mean, that's probably the best thing that he has going for him is he's not filled with weapons, don't get me wrong, but he's got a little bit something to work with. The problem with Richardson is he wasn't even good at Florida. He got drafted as high as he did because, his ceiling is ridiculous. Like
the combine, he just broke records, man.
Sure.
So like that put him on the map here.
Yeah, he's a guy where if he puts everything together, he's a Hall of Fame quarterback without question.
The limit.
He's got talents at that position that we have never seen all combined. Like he is just the best of all worlds theoretically if he can figure it out. I don't.
But QB is a position of mental, strength just as much as physical strength. And that's what we got to see here with Anthony Richardson is how is he going to develop in routes? How is he going to develop in reads? How is he going to develop in pass pros? This is what we got to see from him as a rookie year. And I do agree with you. It's going to be a disaster, I think. I do think, he's going to be running for his life because he can't identify the blitzer. He's not, I don't think he's got the mental game down just yet.
No, if you do have him and you do play him, the only way he's going to save you, I think, is, some rushing touchdowns and getting rushing yards that aren't even, that they weren't even shooting for, like you said, just getting out of the pocket. And his athletic ability just takes over and gets him an 18-yard run, whereas nobody else would have even been in that situation, let alone succeeded there. One thing I do want to point out, though, is earlier when we recorded the Texans, we talked about, I mentioned how I think C.J. Stroud is going to be a much better real-life quarterback than a fantasy quarterback. Anthony Richardson is the exact opposite of that.
180.
I have no interest in Anthony Richardson being my real-life quarterback. But for fantasy purposes, I can live with it because you had mentioned about interceptions earlier, right? In real life, Anthony Richardson, has a game where he throws 3 picks. That's basically you're almost guaranteed to lose that game, right? Now, for fantasy, in most leagues, it's going to cost you a couple of points. He runs a touchdown in, and that negates those interceptions. No big deal.
Right there.
So he is definitely going to be the anti-Stroud, where, I am much more interested in him for fantasy. It's just a matter of,
I bet you were ecstatic when the Lions didn't draft him. Or when they, couldn't draft him.
Yeah, no, I would not have. I mean, I wouldn't have boycotted, but I would have been very disappointed. Let's move on.
I do agree, though.
Yeah, let's move on to the running backs here. This gets us a little bit more interesting because we have Jonathan Taylor here. We have Zach Moss, Deion Jackson, and Evan Hall. Not a bad mix of talent here, honestly. But of course, this all comes down, to Jonathan Taylor. Last year, consensus #1 overall pick in redraft, proceeded to disappoint at an epic level. He's going to be an early pick again in redraft this year. The question really is going to come down to, will he be on the field enough to warrant the investment it's going to take to draft him? So that's really what I want to know from you. Where would you be drafting Jonathan Taylor in redraft? And if you were in that position, how comfortable would you be in doing so?
I mean, my strategy this year is, kind of target wide receivers early in drafts, just because, we discussed on previous episodes, running backs are always going to miss games. Wide receivers typically don't, for the most part. So with that being said, though, even with missing 6 games last year due to injury for Taylor, which is, it's bound to happen for running backs, he still averaged 12 points per game in a half-point per point PPR league, which was 18th for all running backs. That's not, overall, that's not terrible. As a consensus #1 pick, though, that's pretty epic failure. So, yeah, but I mean, you knew that when 6 games were missed as well with him. But this is also an offense that couldn't do anything last year with Matt Ryan, Sam Ellinger, and Nick Foles at quarterback. They were tied for 30th in the entire NFL out of 32 teams with 17 points a game as a team. That's atrocious.
And the sad thing is, I do not think they're going to find themselves upgraded this year.
I mean, the only thing I can kind of see is with that type of, I just can't see them being any worse. You know what I mean? Maybe they stay complacent.
Anthony
right where they
Richardson
are.
says, "Hold my beer, Mike."
And that's the one thing that I will say with Jonathan Taylor that I'm tempering my expectations on with his ceiling is because of Anthony Richardson in the red zone. Shane Steichen coming from the Eagles used Jalen Hurts a lot in the red zone. So I fully expect there to be a lot of vultures there, taking away Taylor's touchdowns. But I think the volume is enough to warrant him as an RB1. It's just I don't want to invest in a first-round pick in him this year. Still.
Yeah, I wish I had a bell earlier to be dinging whenever you were talking about the red zone stuff, because my two biggest concerns about Jonathan Taylor are in this order. Number one, how healthy is he going to be? How much is he going to be on the field? You can say that about everybody to some extent. The other thing I was going to point out, if you didn't, was how many touchdowns is Anthony Richardson going to steal from Jonathan Taylor? That's my other concern. So I think everyone kind of has the same
league
thought
in
there.
rushing touchdowns. I mean,
yeah, that's not, nope, they're not. Nope, not when you're down 21-0 after
exactly.
Anthony Richardson throws a pick six in the first quarter. But let's go ahead and move on over to these wide receivers. Because we talked about Pittman earlier. Obviously, Pittman leads the charge here. We got Alec Pierce coming back for his sophomore season. Isaiah McKenzie comes over from Buffalo. They drafted Josh Downs. We got Ashton Doolin, and I have no idea where Rashad Perriman played last year. I can name about 4 teams that I can think of that he's played for.
I think it was the Bucks.
He couldn't even stay on the Lions last year. He was on the Lions at one point last year, so that tells you what you need to know. But Michael Pittman here, clear alpha wide receiver on this team, set a career high with 99 catches last year, but still end up finishing with less yards and less touchdowns, than the previous year. Now, for me, this is where I find some interest, because in comes Josh Downs, drafted in the 3rd round. I think the ceiling is pretty high for this kid long term, not for this season. This would be more of a dynasty thing, but even to be able to get to the ballpark of being able to compete with Pittman here for catches, he's going to have to beat out, the incumbent Alec Pierce, first and foremost. So what I want to know from you is, do you think that Pittman can be a wide receiver 1? Not on the Colts. I'm talking, in fantasy football here. Do you think he can be a wide receiver 1 in redraft? And then for dynasty, what's your confidence level in Downs?
I love when somebody asks me how a good wide receiver is going to play with a rookie quarterback, because the answer is always no. All right. They just do not produce wide receiver 1s. And it's not that I don't think Pittman is good. He's good. It's just one thing is there's just far, too many better wide receivers with established quarterbacks throwing them the ball already. All right. And then one little thing I dug up from Kyle Borgoni from the Fantasy Footballers.
Kyle Borgoni, I love him.
Yeah, back in 2018, he looked at 53 situations with rookie quarterbacks, and his study found that only 9.4% of the time a rookie quarterback will produce a wide receiver 1. All right, and in those 5 instances, Matt Ryan in 2008 with Roddy White produced wide receiver 4.
White.
Yeah. Cam Newton with Steve Smith produced wide receiver 7. Christian Ponder in 2011, Percy Harvin, wide receiver 8. Andy Dalton with AJ Green, wide receiver 11. And then in 2012, Andrew Luck with Reggie Wayne, wide receiver 8. So just the sample size is so huge. You do not see rookie quarterbacks producing wide receiver 1. So no, quick answer. I mean, not so quick answer, but Pittman's not going to be a wide receiver 1. Sorry. Hate to break it to you. It's just, unless he's part of that 9.4%, don't see it. I love the dynasty value here though, like you said, for Downs and for Pittman as well. All right. So it's just not this year. Sorry guys. I like it moving forward.
Yeah, no, I agree, man. And, with that being said, let's just move on over to the tight ends here. And, I don't hate the wide receivers, but I don't like these tight ends. Jelani Woods, Mo Alley Cox, Kylan Granson. The one thing that I will say about these guys, collectively they're just gonna vulture each other, because to me they're all very similar, which just leaves nobody valuable enough to stand out. If two of these guys got injured and you could have one guy who was going to be the guy that week, I would play them in DFS. Well, maybe not with Richardson, but theoretically, if it was just Jelani Woods for the week, I played Jelani Woods quite a bit last year in DFS. If it was just Mo Alley-Cox in the last couple of years, I've played Mo Alley-Cox in DFS, because we're just touchdown hunting. That's all we're doing.
Yep.
And so any one of these guys, literally, I would never be shocked if in week 7 one of these guys had a 2-touchdown game. They all can do that, but they're also inconsistent, and like I said, they all vulture each other. So I guess at the end of the day, the question is, do you have any more confidence in anyone here than what I do?
I have more confidence that you'll give me the winning lottery numbers. Choosing which week these guys will get 2 touchdowns.
Yeah.
All right. I spent most of my time. I spent most of my time talking about the wide receivers, because that's where most of the attention should go, and the running backs. All right. There are just some NFL teams with tight end rooms that will just provide you 0 fantasy value at a redraft perspective, and this is at
least consistent. These guys are going to score some touchdowns.
It's just you're gonna have no clue when.
You just put their names in a hat and they go, all right, we're gonna throw this one too. Mo Alley-Cox.
That's why I agree with you. Like DFS, I'll be looking at these guys in DFS, absolutely. But as far as redraft concerned, I want nothing to do with them. I'm staying as far away from these guys as tight ends. You can find more tight ends with more consistent target share value.
And even in DFS, you have to have at least one of these guys be injured. If all 3 of these guys are healthy,
yes,
they all could be free, and I'm not playing them. But as soon as you get 1 or 2 of these guys injured, it becomes an option, I suppose. So
not necessarily a guarantee.
With Indianapolis Colts for the 2023 fantasy football team preview. I want to thank Mike LaPlant here for joining me. If you enjoyed the video, go ahead and drop us a quick little like. Would go a long way towards helping with our hair implants. But we appreciate it, and we'll see you for the next one.